practitioner, born and raised in the Tenderloin. She's now a UC Berkeley student working on the San Francisco is what we're fighting
for. You can't imagine how happy I am to be here. 5 months ago, I suffered a stroke. So please be patient with my speaking. It's still a work in progress. Anyway, I woke up in a hospital room and I was lucky enough to be in the stroke ward at Davies Hospital in the Castro. This was, of course, this hospital ground zero during the AIDS epidemic, where so many women and men fought so heroically side by side against this terrible plague. Women of San Francisco, we forged our celebrated values during the fires of that plague. Those values, love, compassion, a refusal to leave behind anyone who needs it, anyone who's suffering. In that struggle to save the city from disease and darkness, we became our best selves. And in the process, we drove Fox News and their friends absolutely crazy. And the social misery and divisions just keep growing more and more. More suffering on our streets. More panic about housing and our shaky future. The growing fear that there's no place for us in our own city, in our own damn city. Meanwhile, the rich just keep getting richer and their grip on City Hall just keeps getting tighter. But now, at long last, we finally have hope. You know, when I woke up in the stroke ward at Davies, I was greatly relieved to be alive, number one, and to be under care at such a great hospital. But I was also happy to hear the news that we were suddenly in the midst of a new mayor's race here in San Francisco, the city that we all love. And that San Francisco had been given another chance, like I was, to revive itself, to live again. And when Jane Kim contacted me to tell me that she was jumping into this race, I knew it was a true rush. I was feeling a true rush of hope, because I knew that the resistance had not just begun, that we were going to win. And that we finally had the leader we needed. That we were going to take back our city from the bloated billionaires who think they own it, and from the sellout politicians who are stuffed inside those billionaires' pockets. I don't have to tell you about all the ways, you're going to hear it all afternoon, that Jane has fought for us as supervisor, from making higher education accessible to all, to winning record levels of affordable housing, to leading the fight for a decent minimum wage, to pushing for more compassionate care for the homeless, and to protecting our young dreamer brothers and sisters. I'm here today even though my stroke rehab obviously is not finished yet. But we don't have a single day to lose in this campaign. That's why I'm here. You know, I honestly think that one reason I hung around after my stroke, when I thought I was dying, was not only to stick by my family and my friends, but to live long enough to see all of us who are gathered here today, turn this city around. Turn the city we love around. It's like the final chapter of Season of the Witch, but this one is one that we all have to write together. You know, sometimes I need to remind people, as I wrote in my book, that San Francisco values were not born with flowers in their hair. They did not come into this world easily. They came into this world howling with political struggle. I know that all of us here today are filled with the same fighting spirit.
I represent the mission, which has a shortage of 150,000 square feet for cultural organizations that need permanent homes. I also work with the Mission Bernal Merchants Association, which is right in the neighborhood that I live in, who also are all, mom and pop shops that are facing displacement. And those mom and pop shops make these cultural districts happen, and that's what we have to support because they are the heart and soul of the city. So I want to just say, we're all here. We love Jane. We want to support her. We know we're going to make a difference at City Hall. So I guess what I want to focus on is how are we going to take this beyond this gathering?
So 7 years ago, against the advice of 24 immigration lawyers, I came out as an undocumented immigrant. Went on Fox News a lot. Bill O'Reilly said I was the most famous illegal in America. I have no idea what that meant. And now, in the past 7 years, I've done maybe 1,000 events in 48 states, talking to as many Republicans, Tea Party members, anybody who would want me to talk to them about what this issue is. Now, I can be here, and as a journalist, I had to do my research, and I can jot down all the things that Jane has done for immigrants here in San Francisco. I can talk about the fact that when she was in the school board, she passed a resolution to uphold sanctuary policies and restrict immigration officials in our schools. I can talk about a supervisor she authored and passed legislation barring local law enforcement, this is really important, from covertly collaborating with federal anti-terrorist authorities. That's a big one. I can talk about the fact that she has authorized resolution to support DACA recipients and dreamers in this city and county. I can talk about, now this is another important one, as somebody who's gotten arrested and detained 4 summers ago almost, that she supported funding for right to counsel, the right for immigrants to have counsel, for immigrants in deportation proceedings with funding from the Public Defender's Office. I can talk about the fact that, as I've already mentioned, on the school board and a supervisor, she supported the right for non-citizen parents and guardians to vote in school board elections. That's a big one. The only city in the country that does that, that's a big one because it tells the undocumented residents of the city that we matter.
See, healthcare for all is about justice. Educating young folks and seasoned folks is about justice. Making sure that immigrants feel welcome and wanted in this country and are treated properly in this country, that we have the type of reform that is necessary, is about justice. To reform a criminal justice system that sees black and brown folks differently than everybody else is about justice. And making sure that women finally get their whole damn dollar is about justice. This is about justice. And that is why she is running for justice. So whatever brings you to this room, besides Jane Kim, whatever issue that you care about, just know it is about justice. And that the most important thing that we can do as human beings on this earth is to recognize other people's humanity, even when we believe that we are absolutely right, and to do things that will make this world a better place. There are already enough people trying to do everything to make it a horrible place. We don't have to join in that too. Justice and love are the order of the day. So without further ado, I bring you Miss Unstoppable herself, because a better city is possible. A better nation is possible. I bring you the fantastic, magnanimous, magnificent Jane Kim, the next mayor of San Francisco.
Senator Nina Turner, please give it up. And I hope my next U.S. presidential candidate. When my team showed me
the speaker list and told me I would be speaking after all of these amazing speakers, I naturally got a little nervous. But I just really want to thank Senator Nina Turner, Jose Antonio Vargas, David Talbot, Precious Listana, Quina Chen, the Tenderloin Chinese, community organization, our loud ladies, our amazing MCs, Al Manalo and Sunny Angulo, Ani Rivera. Thank you all so much for speaking here today. And thank you all so much for coming out. So there's some of you in this room that actually came to my 2004 kickoff for school board. And I want to thank you so much now for coming with me on my 6th tour here in San Francisco. And it has been an incredible ride. And I just want to acknowledge some of our folks here, by the way, that work in public education, because some of them are running. And as I've always said, it's never just about one office. We need people at every single level. So public school teacher Gabriela Lopez, public school parent Allison Collins, and my former youth commissioner Mia Satia. We also have school board member Mark Sanchez, who I served with, and of course Sandra Fewer, who was here earlier. So before my Taekwondo ad in 2016, on a regular basis, people confused me for being my own assistant. People would walk into my office and ask me when they would finally get to meet with the supervisor, or handed me envelopes and would tell me to give this to the supervisor immediately. While perhaps humorous, this is only a slice of the stories that I can share of what it's like to be a woman leader. But I also want to share a story of what women can do when they are in leadership positions. In 2013, I introduced a legislation called the Fair Chance Act, also known as Ban the Box. This is a law that would ban all employers and affordable housing providers from asking applicants from checking a box if they've ever been arrested or convicted of a crime before they even got their foot in the door. And we introduced this because we heard over and over again from individuals who were earnestly looking for a job or for an affordable housing unit, but were being rejected outright without even a serious look because they checked that box. And a group of largely female attorneys from Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, where I used to work, and ACLU, brought this legislation to me and my all-female legislative team at City Hall. But when we started the legislation, we only had five votes, 6 on a good day, and the mayor had already indicated that he would veto the legislation. So we spent a year sitting down with our employers and Chamber of Commerce and Small Business Commission, a year of meetings, negotiating, compromising, educating. We had one of our janitors come and talk about how he had been working for a year until they fired him when they discovered that he had a conviction from 1978. This was in 2013. But after this year of negotiating, this group of women did something extraordinary. They got everyone to the table in unanimous agreement for this ordinance. And so on the day we introduced this and it came to committee, one of the members of the Chamber of Commerce came to speak in support of the ordinance. And he said, when I first saw this bill, the Fair Chance Act, I called it the Fat Chance I'll Hire a Convict Ordinance. It's on the record, you can watch it on SF.gov TV. And he said, but after this year of working with this group of women, I realized that we have not gone far enough to level the playing field for people that want to work here in San Francisco. And the legislation passed 11-0, and the mayor signed it personally. This, of course, was a huge victory for the thousands of individuals that were earnestly seeking work or housing. As we know, 1 out of every 4 Americans get arrested in their lifetime, and we know that it happens disproportionately in communities of colors. 6 months after this ordinance passed, a woman wrote me, and she said, "Thank you. I want to thank you because of you and this ordinance. I finally won an affordable housing unit at NEMA on Market and 10th, across the street from the Twitter headquarters." She won one of the below market rate units that we all fought for in an ordinance to mandate that market rate developers build housing for working class and middle class families here in San Francisco. And she said she had access to a saltwater pool and doggy daycare and valet parking. And she finally had the stability she needed for her and her daughter to finally get a job. And she hadn't been able to do that for 5 years because she had been convicted of not making an alimony payment in 1998. That day, somebody probably confused me for being my own assistant. But I have a seat at the table, and we all do. And people fought so we could be here to have a voice. And that is never, ever lost upon me, no matter who the person thinks that they're talking to or who they think that they're negotiating with. I am constantly reminded of my place as a woman of color in the world of politics. I'm reminded of what it means to be a woman who wants to express her voice and has an opinion and wants to fight for a community. And there is so much at stake, as David talked about. I get to determine how much money you make in our city, what you get to build, how you get to build, how much of it. We have a lot here at the table. But even when I feel tired and defeated, I always come back to the same answer when I ask myself, why am I doing this work? And I do this work not because I'm the smartest person in the room, not because I'm the savviest person in the room, and I'm certainly not the most charming or persuasive, and as my mom reminded me yesterday, the funniest. But I know I care, and I'm incredibly persistent. And every time you have knocked on my door, I am smart enough to say yes to you. Yes, we are going to fight for 40% affordable and middle-income housing, even though no one has ever done that before. And yes, I'm going to fight with you to make San Francisco the only city in the country to make community college free for all of our residents. But while I have gotten to stand in front and be the face of these victories, I have never walked into a negotiating room by myself. I've always walked in with you. Every time I've negotiated with a developer, our neighborhood and community leaders are sitting next to me and demanding what they want to see for our neighborhoods. When I fought for Free City College, the San Francisco Labor Council, and AFT 21 were next to me, drafting every single word in that ordinance. And when it is my turn in this fight, you see me walk into the negotiating room and into chamber, and I fight hard for our community. I fight hard because I know what this work is about, and I know who I am fighting for. I do my homework. I read everything. I write everything out before I walk in. I know every single detail of the ordinances that my all-female legislative staff wrote. We have won together. Now, people often ask me why I have gone into public service, and the answer to me has always been an easy one, because I want to make a difference. And who doesn't want to make a positive difference for their community and for their neighborhood? But I think the harder question is, why do we continue? Because this work is incredibly tiring, it's overwhelming, it's defeating. And so I thought I would end with this story. My first year in office, a gentleman came to my office hours when I held it on 6th Street. He had just been evicted from his SRO hotel, the Rose Hotel on 6th Street. He was disabled. He was in a car collision in his mid-20s while he was working, and he had never been able to recover or get a job. While in this SRO hotel, because of his disability, he complained a lot about access to showers and bathrooms, and eventually the property manager got tired of him and pushed him out onto the streets. And so for 4 years, he came to my office hours every single month without fail. And our staff worked with him, helping out. He'll fill out housing applications, helping him cut through the bureaucracy to get that housing counseling appointment that he needed, to get them the doctor's appointment that he needed. And it was incredibly hard. And there were many days that I would just bump into him on the streets and we would chat for a little while and then we would part ways. On my 2014 re-election victory night, he came. It was very loud inside the party. He was actually down the street at Odd Jobs, for those of you that were there. And he handed me a note. And the note said, "Jane, I finally won a below market rate condo at 388 Beale Street in Rincon Hill." And he said, "Thank you for never giving up on me. And I don't have anything to offer you, but I'm gonna make a copy of my fob key so you can access the women-only sauna in my new condo because you deserve to relax." 4 months later, he came to my office hours again, and Larry looked like a completely different human being. And I had never realized that for the 4 years that I'd known him, that he had always looked homeless. Until he had permanent stable housing for 4 months. It is amazing what permanent stable housing does for a human being. And he brought another friend who he wanted us to help find housing as well. And he wrote me a card. It was one of those holiday, cards that you get at the drugstore, and he wrote in like 3-point font and script, and I had to get out a ruler because I couldn't keep track of the lines. And near the end of the card, he wrote about a day that I saw him on 6th Street, and he said, "You met me on a day that I had decided I was going to take my life, that I couldn't take it anymore, that I had no hope, that I would never find housing, that nobody cared about me. And on this day, I happened to bump into you, serendipitously, and you leaned in after we chatted and you gave me a hug. And after that hug, I decided that I wasn't going to take my life." And he wrote, "Thank you for saving my life." And I still have this card, and I kept it because it's not that I saved Larry's life, it's that Larry continues to convince me that this work matters. This work matters. And he could not make it here today. But Tom Amiano once said to me when I was frustrated because I couldn't get this bill passed to get money to freshmen and sophomores that weren't on track to graduate, a slam dunk issue I thought, but it wasn't. And I was so frustrated, and I asked him why we continue doing this work, because he said, "Those assholes are all the same." And he said, "We continue doing this work because we have hope." And for Larry and all the people who continue to give me hope every day, to tell me that this work is worth it, I want to thank you. But I also want to thank everyone here. Because we all do this work, not just for others. In fact, I always remind people, this work is not altruistic. This work is very selfish. I am safer. I am healthier when my neighbors can afford college. I am better off when there are residents that find homes and apartments and no longer are living on their streets. I am better off when we have single-payer universal health care and everyone can access this right to health care. I won't go into my long speech about how this country, the direction this country has gone over the last 40 years, but we have divested from the very institutions that have supported this country historically. And it is a very simple narrative. I won't go into race and intersections and all of that, but there was a time in this country where we did grow a middle class. And it was a time when we invested in housing, when HUD's budget was larger than the Department of Defense. There was a time that we made an expensive decision to fund a free and universal K-12 education system. These are the very institutions that allow us to actually close the fastest growing income gap that we see here in San Francisco. And that is the work that I want to do today here in this great city and county of San Francisco. As Nina Turner said, we have no excuse in our $10 billion budget to not take care of everyone that lives here in San Francisco. I am running to be your mayor Not because I need to be in room 200, but because we all need to be in room 200. And we can do this work together. We created many of the shortcomings that we see here in our society. We can overcome that. And thank you so much for your faith and your support and your love. We have 5 weeks to turn it out. We have 5 weeks to turn it out. And I have said this before, it is gonna hurt a little bit. I need you to wake up just a little bit earlier on a Saturday and Sunday morning and to give up that time that you could be doing the many multitude things that keep your life together. I'm asking you for the next 5 weeks to come out and join me and knock on doors and to phone bank and hold up a sign and tell your friends and neighbors this is about the next 10 years of our great city. And it is about who gets to lead that fight. And I want us to lead that fight. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank 2 people. Thank you, Sue. I want to thank 2 people without whom I would not be here today. My parents, my mother and father. I talked about this at the banquet last night, but my mom taught me how to negotiate. For any immigrant kid in this room, they know the experience of having a huge line behind you while your mom demands another discount on the groceries or clothes or whatever she was buying for the household, and I would want the floor to swallow me up as a clerk would tell her no, and then she would ask again and again and again. And that is where I learned to never stop asking when people say no to me. My mom.